Good morning, happy Thursday, PSW staff, clients, and friends. Joining us tomorrow's film scoring results for Dark Eyes. Can't wait to show you the beautiful lullabies. Hope you enjoyed Ben Webster yesterday. Jode's favorite, one of my favorites. The beautiful tenor saxophone sounds of Ben Webster. And then Fauré, we looked at Fauré, one of the early French composers that started Impressionism, before Ravel and Debussy. So that was a lot of fun. So, I've been wondering, teetering back and forth about, is this interesting enough? Is this too gossipy? This is going to be a little bit gossipy today. So just a little, just warning you guys a little bit. But it's still a very important part of LA culture. Although it's good to talk about, the Indians and Mulholland and, Lummis, we also can't deny that some of LA and Hollywood is, well, Hollywood in particular, that LA is full of what? It's climate, weather, and also Hollywood. So we're gonna have to talk a little bit about celebrities, but we'll keep it classy. So today, we're gonna look at the gorgeous Chateau Marmont.
That's gooey ballyhooly Hollywood, where any office boy or young mechanic can be a panic with just a good-looking pan. And any shop girl can be a top girl if she pleases the tired businessman. Hooray for
Marmont. It sounds French, and it's really Marmont because it's on Marmont Lane. They wanted Chateau Sunset, Chateau Hollywood. Those names got nixed, so it's on Marmont Lane. 63 rooms, one of the most beautiful hotels. I've never stayed there, but I've gone inside. Very secretive, private bungalows, and some of those, some bad things happened there that we'll take a look at. But a real staple of celebrities going back to the 20s. So built in 1927, but then opens 1929 as apartments. And then by 1931, they needed more money because of the Depression. And then it became a hotel. Modeled after a French retreat in France, Loire Valley. So this is where it's taken the inspiration from. And beautiful Norman architecture. Didn't know Norman, but that's kind of Roman architecture. Just gorgeous. Located at 8221 Sunset. So kind of West Hollywood area, So architects, Arnold Weitzman and William Douglas Lee. William Douglas Lee sounds like a general, huh? But completed in 1929 and perched on a hill, overlooking Sunset Boulevard. And, oriental rugs, velvet couches, mirrors, brass candelabras, very, very old Hollywood atmosphere. Harry Cohen, the horrible, tyrant of Columbia, said, if you're going to get in trouble at the Chateau Marmont. So one of the architects, William Douglas Lee, important architect because he did some really great buildings. One of his other great is the beautiful El Royale apartment building right on Rossmore. I was going to do a class on Rossmore because they have really gorgeous buildings there. El Royale has just been a home to celebrities too over the years. Nicolas Cage and Huell Hauser. I delivered food to Huell Hauser back in the day when he was still alive, so that was always fun. And Al Jolson lived at the El Royale. George Raft, was friends with a lot of the gangsters. And then the great Double Indemnity, some of the scenes were filmed in the building's garage at the El Royale. So let's look at the timeline. If it's 1929, what's going on? The biggest, 1921, the crash, right? So this opens a few months before. It's built in 1927, but by October 29, Wall Street crashes. It's going to be horrible. Forgot to mention in the marks for this class that Groucho lost most of his fortune in the 1929 crash, as well as a lot of other people. But we had done the marks for this last week. So Great Depression starting, unfortunately. So terrible time to open up business. And then, since we're talking about Hollywood, first Academy Awards, 1929. Where was that? The Roosevelt. We did a class on the Roosevelt Hotel. First car radio, made by Motorola, comes out in 1929. Still have radios in cars, right? Wonder if they had Sirius subscription. Other hotels we looked at, Hotel Figueroa, 1926. So a few years before, started And I didn't know that my grandmother worked there. My mom said after she saw the class that her mom worked there for a little bit because, you know, it was one of the first owned and operated by women back in the day. So that was cool. Looked at the Biltmore 1923 earlier, right? Culver Hotel 1924. Dunbar, which was, you know, where essential jazz happened, 1928. Beverly, Wilshire, we looked at a long time ago, 1928. But then Beverly Hills Hotel, remember 1912? That was so long ago. And that was really in the middle of nothing out near in the west. Because downtown was happening, and then, you know, the beach. So what do you have in between? Beverly Hills Hotel was on the way west, but that was just, you know, crazy. And then Catalina, we did a class on, that's 1929. So Catalina is the same year as Chateau Marmont. So, I mean, when it opened, it was LA's newest, finest, most exclusive apartment house. I mean, you could live there. It was probably people loved it so much because it was beautiful, but it was so private. And one thing interesting about hotels I was thinking about, like, especially with old Hollywood, you know, before social media, and there were always tabloids, I guess. There was always media with celebrities, but something interesting about hotels is that, you know, we see old movie stars, you know, because, I mean, a lot of people lived there. I mean, Greta Garbo lived at the Chateau Marmont. Howard Hughes lived there. We see that, you know, we see celebrities in movies on red carpet, but what's interesting about hotels is that hotels are playgrounds for everybody, but mostly celebrities too, because you have your private life, your home life, your family life, all that stuff that was, you know, publicists that tried to keep, you know, you to have a clean image. But when you'd go to a hotel in probably Chateau Marmont, you would all, for better or worse, common sense, reason, a lot of that would go out the window because these were celebrity playgrounds. As disgusting as that is, there's still some interest, you know. I mean, I know we're not interested in Lindsay Lohan's $46,000 unpaid hotel bill, but I mean, we kind of are for a second. But then you also think not only actors, but then writers go there too. And I mean, Day of the Locust, one of the best LA stories, and Butch Cassidy, they were written there. Hunter S. Thompson wrote there. Dorothy Parker. I mean, the great writers stayed there and created works there. We know that John Belushi, that was, you know, where he overdosed on cocaine and heroin, Speedball, and Bungalow 3, 1982. So he was only 33. A lot of people have lived there. Robert De Niro lived there. F. Scott Fitzgerald supposedly had a heart attack there. I'm reading different stories. I mean, the big story was that Led Zeppelin rode their motorcycles through the hall, but I read something else that they were like, that didn't happen, so we don't know. Bungalow 2 is where Nicholas Ray, the great director, rehearsed Rebel Without a Cause. He rehearsed there with Natalie Wood and Dennis Hopper, and supposedly had an affair with Natalie Wood. She was younger, but that's where rehearsals came in. Rebel Without a Cause was, you know, one of the most famous, important movies back in it, you know, when it came out. Earl Flynn went into a drunken rampage there before he died of a heart attack. And then, you know, Jim Morrison, he's always getting into trouble. The Doors were the house band at the Whiskey. We did a whole class on the Whiskey. He fell off a roof or a balcony. They're not really sure. And then it would have been burned down had something happened, but Betty Davis fell asleep with a cigarette watching her old movies and almost burned the whole building down. It's also welcoming to blacks, you know, for the most part. I mean, Sidney Poitier was welcomed there. You know, one of the most famous actors, was welcomed with open arms in the 50s. Huge thing. And as well as Duke Ellington. We know that Duke Ellington played around LA, played at the Coconut Grove a lot, but then wasn't allowed in the Ambassador, so they stayed at the Gaylord across the street. This is also where Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski stayed before they moved in to Cielo Drive, where the brutal massacre would happen in 1969. So this is where they lived right before that. It's not that far from Cielo Drive, you know, so just scary to think about. So those are just a little bit of Hollywood gossip. You know, we all like a little taste of that. Sometimes it's kind of fun. 1976, it was a cultural landmark. So, I mean, regardless, it's real class. It's so gorgeous. You can stay there for about $1,000 a night, and that's just, you know, probably one of the 63 rooms. But there's 23 seats and 4 bungalows. So, you know, and Supposedly not a huge pool, but so during the pandemic, I guess it's announcing plans to convert to a members-only hotel. So it just makes it harder for somebody like like us to get a room there. So it's members only, but some of it is still going to be open to the public. The bar and restaurant. Just thought it would be nice to kind of visualize what old LA would have been like. You think if you lived in a farm in Kansas, these buildings are really cool. A lot of history in some of these buildings and hotels. So hope you enjoyed a little taste of Chateau Marmont. Pretty cool. So, okay, tomorrow film scoring results for Dark Eyes. Can't wait to show you that. Okay, see you tomorrow. Bye.